Chosen one. Before you continue, don't treat these words like another ordinary message, because today, God wants to speak directly to the place inside your heart that no one else can see. The place where you've hidden your tears, the place where you've buried your disappointment, the place where you've silently wondered, Lord, when will my life finally change? Today, He answers, My child, I have not forgotten you. I have been preparing you for a season that will make every painful moment worthwhile. Do I have to wait? How much longer do I have to fight? How much longer do I have to deal with the same situation? How much longer before something finally changes? Chosen one. God sees that question. He sees the tears you don't show people. He sees the nights when you lie awake thinking about everything that could go wrong. He sees the pressure you've been carrying. He sees the moments when you smile in front of everyone and then become silent when you're alone. And God says, I know you're tired, but this battle is not the end of your story. You may see a wall. God sees a way through. You may see a dead end. God sees another road. You may see a closed door. God sees another entrance. You may see impossible circumstances. God sees possibilities you cannot yet understand. Chosen one. The biggest mistake you can make in a difficult season is assuming that what you see is all that exists. Your eyes can only see the present, but God sees what comes next. You see today's problem. God sees tomorrow's solution. You see the struggle. God sees what the struggle is producing inside you. You see the delay. God sees the preparation. You see the battle. God sees the victory that can come from it. That's why you cannot allow one difficult chapter to convince you that the entire book is going to end badly. It won't. Your story is still being written. Chosen one. Think about the Israelites standing before the Red Sea. Behind them was an army. In front of them was water. From a human perspective, there appeared to be nowhere to go. They couldn't move forward. They couldn't safely go backward. They were trapped between two impossible situations, and perhaps you've felt like that. You look behind you, and you don't want to return to your past. You look ahead, and you don't see a clear path. You feel stuck in the middle. But the Red Sea was not the end. It was the place where a way appeared, where there seemed to be no way. Chosen one. Sometimes. God doesn't remove the obstacle before you arrive at it. Sometimes, He allows you to reach the place where your own strength ends. So you discover that His possibilities don't end there. That's why you shouldn't panic simply because you don't see the solution yet. The solution doesn't have to be visible today for it to exist tomorrow. God says, stop judging my ability by the size of your problem. Your problem may be large, but God is not limited by the size of it. Chosen one. Maybe your battle right now, not because I ignored you, because I loved you enough to prepare you. Chosen one. There were moments when people laughed at your dreams. They mocked your faith. They questioned your patience. They whispered behind your back. They assumed nothing good would ever happen in your life. Some even enjoyed watching you struggle. But heaven never agreed with their opinion. God says, the voices that mocked you never had authority over your destiny. People can criticize your journey, but they cannot cancel your calling. People can ignore your gifts, but they cannot remove God's hand from your life. People can walk away, but they cannot take away the purpose I placed inside you before you were born. Chosen one. Stop measuring your future by today's circumstances. Your current chapter is not your final chapter. The silence is temporary. The waiting is temporary. The struggle is temporary. What God has prepared will last far longer than the pain you've endured. Very soon, the same people who questioned your future will become witnesses to God's faithfulness, not because you sought revenge, but because God always finishes what He starts. And when your season changes, no one will be able to deny that it was the hand of God. Chosen one. If you've stayed with this message, then perhaps God is preparing your heart for something far greater than you can imagine. Because today, He wants to answer the question you've been carrying for so long. Lord, why did you allow me to go through all of this? Why the rejection? Why the betrayal? Why the lonely nights? Why the unanswered prayers? Why the endless waiting? Why did it seem like everyone else was moving forward while your life remained the same? There were moments when you opened social media and watched everyone celebrating. Someone bought a new house, someone think the project has failed. But beneath the surface, workers are building a foundation strong enough to support everything that will come later. God says, that is exactly what I have been doing in your life. You were frustrated because nothing appeared to be changing, but I was strengthening your foundation. Every disappointment taught you patience. Every delay increased your endurance. Every rejection made you depend on me instead of people. Every tear softened your heart instead of hardening it. Every unanswered prayer deepened your faith. Chosen one, you thought your greatest enemy was the people who mocked you, but it wasn't. Your greatest enemy was the temptation to quit. The enemy knew something you didn't. He knew how close you were to your breakthrough. That is why the attacks became stronger. That is why discouragement increased. That is why loneliness felt heavier. Because whenever God is preparing a greater blessing, the enemy always tries to convince you to leave before you arrive. God says, the battle became harder because your miracle became closer. Chosen one, remember Joseph. After receiving God's dream, everything seemed to move in the opposite direction. Instead of becoming a ruler, he became a slave. Instead of being honored, he was falsely accused. Instead of receiving justice, he sat inside a prison, year after year. Nothing looked like God's promise. People probably assumed Joseph had failed. Some may have believed God had abandoned him, but heaven knew something nobody else understood. Every prison door was leading to a palace. Every delay was arranging divine timing. Every painful season was preparing Joseph to carry responsibility without pride. Chosen one, the same God who worked in Joseph's life is working in yours. You may not understand today's struggle, but one day, you'll thank God for not answering your prayers too early. Because if He had given you everything when you first asked, you might not have had the wisdom to keep it. God says, I delayed the blessing because I was protecting both you and the blessing itself. Chosen one, there are people who receive success quickly, only to lose it just as fast. There are people who receive influence, but lack the character to handle it. There are people who receive wealth, but never learn gratitude. God refuses to build your future on a weak foundation. That is why your journey has been slower, not because you are less loved, but because your assignment is greater. Chosen one, the silence you've experienced has not been empty. While you thought heaven was quiet, angels were working, doors were being arranged, people you've never met were being positioned, conversations were taking place that would eventually involve your name. Blessings were moving toward your future, long before you ever saw them. God says, even when you couldn't see my hand, you could always trust my heart. Chosen one, stop comparing your chapter 5 to someone else's chapter 20. You don't know the full story of anyone else's life. You only know the path God has designed for you, and His path is always perfect. Very soon, the people who mocked your silence will witness the wisdom that silence produced. They laughed because you weren't arguing. They mocked you because you weren't defending yourself. They thought your quietness meant weakness, but your silence was never weakness. It was trust. It was obedience. It was faith. And now, the God who asked you to remain silent is preparing to speak on your behalf. The same voice that created the universe is about to open doors that no human being can close. The waiting season is almost over. The preparation is nearly complete. The hidden roots have grown deep, and the harvest that God promised is closer than it has ever been. So don't lose hope now. Don't stop praying now. Don't walk away now. Because you are standing at the edge of the season you've been believing for. The God who carried you through every storm is about to reveal, may give you compassion for someone else. The failure you're experiencing may teach you how to succeed differently next time. Nothing has to be wasted. God can use even the difficult chapters. Chosen one. That's why you should stop saying, "My life is falling apart." Instead, ask, "What is this season trying to teach me?" That question can change everything. Maybe it's teaching you patience, maybe boundaries, maybe courage, maybe humility, maybe discipline, maybe forgiveness, maybe independence, maybe trust. Maybe it's teaching you that you don't need everyone to stay. Maybe it's teaching you that your worth doesn't fight the battle you cannot win with words. You didn't understand it then, because silence